pleasure to have you in London. Thank you for coming over. We've been listening to your productions, to your DJ sets for quite a while, and you know you're building a really big reputation for deep, dark, driving house music. And I was just really interested to understand a little bit about the background to where you're coming from in New York, really, and the scene over there, and the inspiration to what you're doing. That's good.
Well, basically what I'm doing is everything I've come up listening to. You know, I've been in New York partying since I was young, so I'm just basically putting out what I witnessed or what inspired me. DJs in New York from the 90s till what's going on today. I get to travel a lot and see other DJs and other things that I wasn't aware of, and that's just basically all I bring forth to what I'm doing now, whether it's musically or DJ set or whatever it might be. New York is definitely the mother of it all, but I grasp everything. So
the home of house music.
I'm sorry, say that again?
The home of house music.
US.
A lot of stuff is going on there. Yeah. And who were the DJs that you were listening to that really inspired you?
There's a lot. You got, as far as better known DJs, I would say you have DJs like Louis Vega, Timmy Regisford, DJ Camacho, rest in peace, Kim Lightfoot, Kaleem Shabazz, the Afterlife crew. There's just so many people. I mean, some known, some not known. Even my cousins, you know, the ones that started me up, are a big inspired to me when it comes to DJs. So it's just too many to name. If I go down the list, we'll be here till the party will end on us. And there's just a lot. It's a lot of DJs. A lot.
And did you we had Bill Patrick here a couple of months ago. He talked a lot about going to Twilo, going to see Danny Tenaglia, Junior Vasquez, those kind of guys, kind of the big club residents in the late 90s. Was that kind of stuff that you were listening to, or was it a different kind of scene?
Yeah, different scene. It actually wasn't the scene I rolled through. I mean, well, Junior Vasquez is different because he had a party in New York called the Red Zone. And I mean, we're talking about the golden era in New York club scene at this time. Danny Tenaglia, I'm a big fan. I've never really partied at a Danny Tenaglia party, but he used to do a lot in New York. He even had a radio show years back when he was Danny M. I don't know if many people know about that, but through that I heard Danny. But I was more in the, I would say, Shelter / Sound Factory bar, Sound Factory scene. I mean, there was a lot of, that's the thing, in that era, in that time in New York, there was so many parties. I mean, New York was, in the 90s, I would say the mecca of partying. Unfortunately, it's not the same today, but there was just so many scenes you can roll through. I mean, we used to have places called the Afterlife. Just so many clubs, but it definitely was a different scene from the Twilo. And the Twilo was more of the, at least what we considered it to be, was more of the ravey kind of scene, where the scene I was in was more of the dancers, dancing to the music type of scene. So it was definitely a different scene, but so it all coincides with each other.
A different kind of heritage though, because in this country and in Europe, there's no real kind of pure house dance heritage. I think that's much more of a thing in the States. Do you notice that difference like culturally when you come over here?
Yes, definitely. I mean,
different kind of
there's certain house clubs I can take you to in New York City today that the style of house they play, you couldn't properly bring me anywhere here and show me that same style, you know? There's definitely a difference in house sound when it comes from US coming over to Europe. Or not even just Europe, from US going to Japan or something. It's just there's a certain scene in New York that was a New York thing, definitely. And it's something that I wasn't aware of till recently, till I started traveling.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're right on that point.
And what is the sound though? Is it more kind of Latino, more rhythmic?
You have that. You have the Latino. Like you can go still check out Louis Vega. He gives you that Latin rhythm, Latin Afro rhythm in his house music. You have DJs like I mentioned before, Timmy Regisford, where he gives you the more soul singing type of house, which I love too. And I can't say I've heard stuff like that as I've been coming over to Europe. You know, there's a lot of records from that time that were big anthems. I remember big anthems that I'll pull out today and play it here in Europe, and people come to me like, "What is that?" No one heard of it, and I'm like, "Wow!" Back then when we were partying, I'm thinking everybody around the world is partying to this song, and it's not the case.
Because it was almost like, you know, I look at, you know, I'm an English guy, but I look at music videos on YouTube of New York house, like proper gospel house, New York stuff from the early to mid 90s, and it almost looks like soul music or hip hop, the way it's presented. But it seems to have kind of disappeared, whereas hip hop's, you know, become just totally dominant. House music's kind of died away. Like, is that?
I guess it depends. For me, house music, it never died for me. When I first started traveling around maybe 2008 or 7, I started hearing about, there's a house resurgence coming in now, or house music is back. And I always used to say, when did it ever leave?
Yeah.
But, you know, different scenes call for different things. Back when we partied at, it was never really about a certain style fits this particular time and era, and now we're switching it to this style because this is what's fitting. It's always been the same. You heard the Gospel House with a Tyree record, you know? You heard a Kerry Chandler record with Derek May record. It was all together, and it was all, we looked at it as house music. You know,
but it kind of lost the commercial backing, so it lost the radio play, it lost the exposure, and
well, in that sense, so did hip hop in a way, because the hip hop, the New York style hip hop, even in New York, you don't really hear it much on the radio anymore. I mean, it's still U.S. based, but it's more of a South side of the United States sound that really doesn't. I wouldn't say it doesn't, but it's you got to really listen hard to try to hear the influences of the old hip hop. But even with that, it's happened. Radio's not backing it.
The classic break beats and
the Tribe Called Quest,
the loops,
and you don't really hear that anymore. Even that's not present anymore. So even with hip hop, the backing kind of fell off a little bit.
Is that still alive in New York though?
Yeah, but it's a street thing.
Yeah.
Like it was when it started. It's back to that. You know, it had its play on the radio. A lot of big artists came out of New York. A lot of hip hop artists came out of New York. But today it's just it's hip hop. What the big labels did is now it's dominated somewhere else. You know, it's no longer. Everyone knows it's a New York thing, but the market and the money decided to go elsewhere for it. So
yeah. As you're saying, a lot of the exposure is coming from over here. And actually, I don't know, like, what are the parties, what is the exposure like back home? Is it quite limited, or?
Yeah, the party scene at home is definitely not thriving like Europe is right now. It did at one point, but right now it's actually starting to come back. Yeah. Because you're starting to see a lot of illegal parties being done on lofts or in certain venues that are off, and that's a good thing because this is how the New York house scene started. But I mean, I definitely get more bookings in Europe than I do in New York. You know, New York is a rough place. That's why they have the saying, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere, because it's a very tough place to get yourself started at.
And is it a different kind of vibe at those parties? Like, because, you know, it's been well documented that you came from a dance background. That's not really something that's that prevalent over in Europe. Is there a different kind of crowd that comes from that side of things over there? Or?
Definitely. definitely a different type of crowd. I mean, it's a crowd that are basically there to dance.
Yeah.
No one's drinking. No one's really doing drugs. No one's, I mean, they're just there to dance. That's all it's about. It's just dance. That's all it is. And it's a different scene. I mean, a lot of people around the world don't even know that house dancing exists. And back then, when I was so involved in that, I thought every club is kind of like this. But you open your eyes as you travel. So. But it's a different scene.
And it's dance as an art form as well.
Yes, I mean, we're talking about people who basically love to dance, go to clubs to get away from their everyday problems or whatever it is, and just let free. And they let free to the point where they are, in my eyes, professionals at what they do. I mean, they can get in there and dance with the best of them, you know, from any style of dance. So it's definitely a passion.
Yeah.
Definitely a passion.
And do you feel that when you come over to Europe and the emphasis is less on that and it's more hedonistic and about the party, about drugs, is that a different kind of vibe? Do you still enjoy playing to those kind of crowds? Is it a different feeling?
I mean, it's not really about drugs to me, but here it's just more about listening to the music, just feeling good with the music, having a good time with the music, talking to your friend while you're listening to the music. Where the dance scene over there, it's not, it's just everybody's in there partying, partying it up. But I mean, the common ground between the both sides is that people love the music, and that's what's important. As far as the dance, to me, dancing is music's soulmate, you know, before anything else. Everything else comes secondary, so, but everything has its beauty, you know.
It's the inspiration to it.
Definitely. Music should inspire you to move, you know, so.
Absolutely. And so, like, if you look at something in particular, like Levon Vincent, you know, he's moved over to Berlin recently. He's playing a lot of gigs at places like Berghain. He's touring a lot around Europe. Is that something that you would look to do, or do you feel that your roots are really placed in New York?
Yeah, I've been asked that question a few times. Why don't you come over to Berlin for a while? Why don't you come over to whatever part of Europe for a while, stay for a while, you can play more and get more. And I'm like, it sounds good and all, and I mean, I'm sure years back that probably would have been a dream to me, but after coming out, I'm really a New York, New Jersey type of person. I love coming here, playing, having fun with the people, get to meet a lot of people, but at the end of the day, I'm a Jersey person, and I can't see me really staying some other state in the U.S. I can't see me living in at this point. So anything can change, you know. Anything can change. My mind can change tomorrow because I could be moody like that. But as of right now, no plans to stay in Berlin, or no plans to. I don't think that'll work for me. But it works for Levon. It works for anyone else who does it. It's not gonna work for me right now.
And is that about trying to build a scene back home, or is that just because you feel that your roots are?
That's where my roots are. That's where I'm inspired to do things on the musical tip. You know, I don't know what I'd do if I lived here and tried to do the things that I do at home. I don't know if it'll come off the same for me. I don't know. It never. From the moment I started coming here, it never crossed my mind. Maybe I should stay here for a little while and see what I can make out of it. You know, and it's tough where I'm at. You know, it's not cheap to live. It's very difficult for somebody doing music to survive. Where it might become a lot easier if I came this way. I can drop off a lot of things that I'm doing back at home and just concentrate on that. But still not ready.
Maybe
to
one
come
day.
This way. Maybe one day. Just today ain't the day. Or this year ain't the year for me.
That's cool, because we spoke to DBS1 a couple of months ago, and he said the same kind of thing. You know.
Oh, that's good. That's
all about the US. All about the US.
Yeah.
So, in terms of production, like, you've been really prolific over the past couple of years. You had your album, you've had a lot of 12s coming out. You know, really inspiring music. Are you just concentrating on that at the moment? Is that your main thing?
I actually kind of was Actually, I've been concentrating recently on remixes, which I'm actually going to start shutting down as far as doing remixes because it's kind of taken away from my own thing that I do with my label and the music I just like to produce on the fly without any idea that I have to comply to. So musically right now, I'm just coming back to my own stuff, to do things for my label, and to just do music for clubs for me to play that aren't necessarily to put out, you know. I do have a release ready that I'm gonna try to actually get going when I get back home from this weekend. And I'm just now gonna go back to doing what I do for my label and the stuff we into, you know, and kind of gonna get away from the remixes because I've been kind of on that for the last year, you know, so that's what's gonna go on now, yeah.
Okay, cool. Good stuff, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, you ready to dance now?
Yeah, mate, we're gonna
let's
go
do
for it
this.
downstairs.
All right. Thank you.